Now, funding table is something that is not available in all feasibility application softwares or spreadsheets and so on, because this is something that I worked many years to perfect. Because your type of funding, that whether you are going to borrow against the total cost of the project, or you're going to borrow against the total hard cost of the project, or you're going to borrow based on the total sales of the project, or you are going to go with, okay, my broker told me I can get only X amount of money for this project. So in that scenario, that's the reason we've broken this down into a funding table. And this allows you to consolidate all your different costs and see clearly whether or not bank would consider that to be a hard cost, because banks will only lend you a percentage of what they consider to be hard costs. So I basically address them as bank's TDC, or bank's total development cost, because things like stamp duty, for example, they will entirely be funded by the developer. So if you look here, they will be funded just by the developer. If you look at land finance costs, which is the amount of money that it will cost me to hold the land for 12 months before I commence construction, is not going to be funded by the bank or considered by the bank to be bank's TDC. So if when the bank says, I'm going to lend you 60% of the TDC, they are not referring to the total project cost, which is which is going to be the total cost for the project, including what the bank would give you, including every little cost. So if you spend $2,000 on getting an entity set up to do this project, that is also included in that, whereas banks don't consider that. So based on that, and then we've got another option where sometimes you've got to borrow money based on the total sales. Or you could say, hey, I've spoken to somebody and they said I can only borrow 1.5 million and everything else needs to come from somewhere else. Now, obviously this goes negative because it is greater than the total cost of the project right here for the time being. And then we've got maximum equity, which is, you could say that, okay, I only have 500,000. The rest needs to come from somewhere, and we'll give you options under financing where you can get mezzanine funding, or you can even split the equity between yourself and investors and so on. So we'll discuss that under the finance tab, but you can select that this is the option that I wish to go with, and then go on and keep entering the values. Now these values keep updating simultaneously because they are interdependent on each other. So you'll see that over here the cost is only 1.3. Why? Because we haven't entered the finance options here, which we'll look in the next video.